The following is a presentation of the Matt Talk Podcast Network.
You've always got time for Short Time.
Hey, it's Mario Lopez.
David Taylor.
Brent Metcalf. Johnny Hendricks. Tony Ramos. Bubba J.
Mike Golick.
Matthew Modine. The one and only Chael Sonnen. And you are listening to the one and only Short Time Wrestling Podcast by the often imitated and never duplicated Jason Bryant.
So it's the Short Time Wrestling Podcast as we release a special Saturday episode. And why is it a Saturday episode? Well, you know, when you drive 4 hours for a dual meet and then you go to the dual meet and then you do interviews and you get done and then you realize, like, okay, I'm going to drive 4 hours back home, and then you get home around 2:15, then you update your scores, you curate the daily wrestling news for our over 700 subscribers at madtalkonline.com/news. Then you get home, you're ready to go to sleep, and then your 4-month-old wakes up. Then your 4-year-old wakes up, and then you're up till about 4. And then your loving wife lets you sleep into about 10. And then she makes breakfast, and then all of a sudden you realize that all the great content you had from last night needs to get up. So we had an awesome event out in Brookings at South Dakota State. Chris Bono and his crew really hustled 4,087 fans, a new South Dakota State record. Going to be one of the top crowds this year outside of Carver Hawkeye, the Battle at the Birthplace, and the Bryce Jordan Center. And of course, you know, Rec Hall draws about 6,000. So it's going to be one of the top crowds in wrestling this year. And kudos to Chris Bono and his staff. Hawkeyes came away with a pretty convincing 29-8 win. But throughout the course of that day to Brookings, I got a chance to go out to South Dakota State, and I did some math. And my math, it varies. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. And by the way, you're listening to Short Time Wrestling Podcast. I forgot to tell you that. This is episode 296, I'm pretty sure. Actually, you know what? I'll have to look. I'm not into the editing this morning, so I'm going to sit here. I'm going to click off Flow Arena because I'm keeping up with Las Vegas. Let's see. That's episode 295, because we had Abdullah Abu Mahfouz of Stand Up on the previous episode. Good conversation with him. So sitting here, and there was a dual meet prior to South Dakota State and Iowa with two high school teams, one from Iowa, one from South Dakota State, coached by brothers. So we're going to talk to both Paul and Marty Konechny here in a bit, and then we'll go with the press conference, the post-press conference with Tom Brantz, Thomas Gilman, Sam Brooks, Sans Mullet, and then we had a chance to talk to Seth Gross, Nate Rodert, and Chris Bono. So I'm going to stream a couple interviews here together for you. We're going to lead off with Konechny brothers and just a cool concept. And actually, I was talking about math, and I don't have ADD, but I'm pretty sure if I could self-prescribe it, I would. Let me just flip through my notebook. And yes, Mike Malanconico from Flow. Yes, I still write down stuff. I have notebooks full of things. I write stuff down because when I write it down, there's a better chance of me remembering it than if I type it. So I think we figured it out. This was I actually redid some math. I had to add Cleveland State to my list of college venues, but I have attended, let's see, so 55 different colleges I've covered wrestling at 64 different venues. And that means, like, you know, at Iowa, we've got their old gym, then we got Carver Hawkeye and Kinnick Stadium. So that's 3 venues. Franklin and Marshall, 2 places, Mazer Gym, and then there was the athletic, like field house-ish kind of thing across the street next to the Doc Holidays in Lancaster. Let's see, another option. Minnesota has the Sports Pavilion and Williams Arena. Cleveland State has the Wolstein Center. Old Dominion had the field house, which has been bulldozed. And actually, I got to add that to 3 because we wrestled in the athletic administration building as well. So the field house, the administration building, and the Ted Constant Convocation Center. So if I can update that. So now it's a constant thing. So this is 55 schools at 65 places, like Lehigh, Stabler, and Grace Hall. Anyway, this was a cool event because it set around. And another cool thing about this is Coach Bono was telling me that, South Dakota State, as we record this, December 3rd, this is a Saturday morning recording and an editing process. South Dakota State plays Villanova in the football championship subdivision playoffs. Villanova's AD was at that wrestling match last night. South Dakota State AD, Justin Sell, brought the Villanova AD to the match. and you think about the impact. Okay, oh, great, yeah, 4,000 people in Brookings, South Dakota. That's great for wrestling. Do you realize that other schools now witness that? And Villanova once had a program, and unfortunately that program is marred by the name DuPont. So they really never got an opportunity to really understand the value of a wrestling program to their school. Now, is it a long shot that Villanova may consider adding a wrestling program with what they saw in Brookings, South Dakota? Unlikely, but it plants the seed. Because because South Dakota State and Villanova really have nothing in common. Brookings, South Dakota, and Philadelphia are two crazily opposite places. I've lived, an hour from Philly, and I've lived out here in the Midwest for a couple years. So the type of landscape that both schools and the demographics of people, slightly different. But anytime I think an ADC is a place filled up with wrestling, it's good because Frost Arena seats about 6. There was one section of bleachers that were not pulled out. And there was of the 4 sides, basically 3.5 were pulled out. I'm thinking in retrospect, they've got to be kicking themselves, but man, we could have pulled out that other set of bleachers and gotten maybe 500, 600, 700 more people in there. This was a great wrestling atmosphere. Under the lights, the fans were right on top, and every single fan in Brookings, you guys get a hat tip and a clap of the hand and a pat on the butt, because every single fan in Brookings, South Dakota on December 2nd, 2016, stayed to the very end. The match started at 149. We did not get to see Corey Clark and Seth Gross because Corey Clark is out with what has been described as an undisclosed injury. And even talking to Iowa Sports Information Director Chris Brewer, the school cannot even comment because on those athletic forms, the HIPAA forms and the about the grades and the health stuff that, there's disclosure forms. Well, Corey Clark said, no, you cannot comment. He checked the no box. So legally, they cannot comment on what exactly this injury is. It's a law, folks. I'm not sure exactly what type of law it is. It's definitely not a federal law, but it's definitely something that's there's some binding issues there. So Corey Clark's injury or alleged injury cannot really explain what it is, how long he's out, anything other than just surface information. And Chris Brewer basically said that's kind of all the Iowa side is really limited to say. So we did not get to see Brewer and Gross, but we still saw every single fan stay to the end. Even at the big schools, even at the power schools, the match is in hand. You're the home team. You're not going to win the duel, and it's the last match. Now you're just getting up. You're leaving. Not the case in Brookings, South Dakota. Not the case. Amazing atmosphere. I was talking to Mike Malanconico a bit, and, they in Flow Wrestling has their streaming with South Dakota State. And he's like, dude, I didn't draw the short straw. No, sir, you did not. This was a great atmosphere for wrestling. I am excited to have been there. I'm excited to have had that be my first ever wrestling experience at South Dakota State University. So Chris Bono, John Reeder, AJ Shop, Zach Reed, awesome. Awesome job. Love it, love it, love it. Now, on to our interviews, because this is going to be rapid fire. We go from a post-interview with the 2 high school coaches. Then we go rapid fire, boom, 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 presser. And while we're saying press, why don't you press subscribe if this is your first time listening to the show? iTunes. Go to MattTalkOnline.com/GetShortTime. You do that already? You like what we're doing here? Guess what? I sent out an email on Giving Tuesday. I missed the boat on the listeners here. You want to contribute on #Giving Tuesday, even though it's not Tuesday? MattTalkOnline.com/join the team. The patrons are growing. And I just, while we're at it, I want to mention who those people are, because you've added a new level of fan support to this program. So Jack Childs, Craig Frost, Andy Cook, Scott Beck, Clint Parks, Jermaine Media, Mark DeSalvo, Eric Wolfter, John McCarty. Thank you. Thank you. Your support, I cannot really measure. It's hard to measure. In Craig Frost's case, I know I can measure it because it basically, he doesn't buy a pair of wrestling shoes for a month, and all of a sudden, we're all square. Good barbecue, by the way, Mr. Frost. Al Bundy eats Twizzlers and Frosted Flakes while listening to Five Finger Death Punch. If you don't know what that means, don't worry. Craig knows. That's what I got. Short time rolls on. Thank you for listening, because we know you've always got time for Short Time. Here in Brookings, South Dakota, as we've got a little family rivalry, some border war action, if you will, a high school duel with teams from South Dakota and Iowa prior to South Dakota State's duel here at Frost Arena with the University of Iowa. We'll start with Paul Konechny. Your team came out with the victory today over your brother's squad, and then let's get this right, Central Lyon George Little Rock. So CLGLR. That's a lot of letters for basically 14 weights.
Yeah, too bad we can't spell any words with it. But, it was a competitive duel. We knew it was going to be. Most importantly, the kids got exposed to a great environment, get to see the college duel afterwards. So it was a great event all around. Appreciate what SDSU did for us, and it was nice beating up on my little brother a little bit, too.
Yeah, so that's the brother angle here. We mentioned the little family war here. Marty, your team from right here, about 40 minutes away. You guys have an opportunity to come up to South Dakota State, probably more than your brother's team does. What's it like to be able to wrestle here in Frost Arena with your high school kids?
And it's fun. It's great exposure for the kids and, for the school, for SDSU to, host something like this. We come up to SDSU camps, and Bono and the crew, Reader, AJ, they've been really great to our kids. And just to kind of pay back the favor, they kind of hosted us, and it was great to have Central Lyon come up and be a part of it.
Paul, you've got quite a history here, 4-time All-American, 2-time Division II national champion. To be able to come up and bring your team into an environment which you had so much success, what's this mean to you?
Yeah, it does mean, I won't say a lot, but it's a very neat experience for me to be able to bring the kids up just so they can see, some of the history, kind of see what I used to do back in the day. So just a great experience, and I really enjoyed it. It was nice getting all the family back up here again. So it was a fun event.
As an alum, what's it mean to you to see what Coach Bono has done to really engage? I mean, we're expecting a big crowd here, the number 3 ranked team in the country. It's not just the number 3 ranked team. This is University of Iowa that's coming into Frost Arena. In your day, that's not happening. Now the school's Division I. As an alum, you've got to like where the program's headed.
Yeah, the energy around here is incredible. The coaching staff, led by Coach Bono, just the effort and the time and the passion, really, that they have for building this program is... even if you're not a South Dakota State alum and you're just a South Dakota wrestling fan or a wrestling fan in general, you got to appreciate and love what they're doing here.
Now, Marty, you're here in the state, so as we said, you get to see them a lot more often. What's the state's reaction to what's happening, not just with South Dakota State, but all the 4 wrestling programs? They're going to be wrestling down at the Sanford Pentagon on Sunday, but South Dakota State is the lone Division I program in the state, and that's really kind of carrying the flag for South Dakota college wrestling. What's it mean for your kids to be able to come in and then see where the progress and the upward motion of the program is?
Being this close to Brookings and being exposed to it, bringing Iowa in here tonight, great exposure for SDSU, but having all 4 schools down in Sioux Falls and dueling, what better thing could you do for the state? South Dakota and wrestling. It's great that they all come together, and I think our kids, like we said, we come to camps, we're exposed to SDSU. We changed a few kids over that were wearing black. They're Hawkeyes fans. We got them starting to wear some blue now, so it's a good thing.
Now, what about you? You're in the state of Iowa. You got to contend with 3 Division I programs that are drawing, the favoritism from maybe your kids. You switching any of them over to blue and gold?
Yeah, I've exposed them to some of the fundraisers, some of the events they've done here, and they actually have great relationships with the coaching staff here at SDSU. So I've converted them a little bit. They might be a little neutral here tonight on some of the matches, but we're just excited to see some great wrestling.
All right, now this duel you guys just finished up with came down to heavyweight. It was the team from Iowa comes in here and gets the victory, but I understand there were some words that were had at the D1s that really kind of led to this duel. I don't know if the kids are listening to this. You don't have to go with the PG version, or you can. First of all, let's get your perspective on how this duel got set up and basically the genesis of the idea.
Yeah, they're at D1s, between sessions, sitting with some of the Madison crew, and we just got talking. Man, it would be great. Other schools that do this, they realize it's a great experience for the high school kids. It's really great just to build in the program, building wrestling in general, to have events like this. So when we got to talking, and as soon as word got to Bono, he said, let's do it. And then he mentioned that Iowa was coming to town, and wow, we were excited, and he pulled the trigger for us. So, I mean, again, we appreciate all the gratitude in the world for what they've done for us here.
One interesting aspect is I noticed it as Madison's, their logo looks very similar to something that I recognize living in the Twin Cities. That's got to make, kind of as an Iowa team, you're sitting there, you're seeing that gold M that looks a lot like the Golden Gophers. That's got to be a little bit of a motivation to also to kick it into your brother's team a little bit too. Yeah, so to be clear, I'm a South Dakota boy at heart, but I've been in Iowa for 6 years now, so I'm exposed to it. And it does. I thought he was wearing a Gopher shirt when he showed up here for the interview, so I didn't know what was going on. But yeah, it felt good. It felt good a little bit, but I realized they had a few guys out for injuries, and I was just glad it was a competitive meet. A lot of the matches were competitive, and that's what we want to see. Now, from a South Dakota perspective, how would you gauge the wrestling in this state compared to where it was 5-10 years ago, and coming through and be like, is wrestling improving in this state, and is there going to be enough athletes that, when Chris Bono goes to recruit and he can take the pick of the litter from the state of South Dakota and have no problem competing against Division I teams? You're right. You know what, Bono, the things that he's doing here at SDSU, he kind of does have the pick of the litter through the state. But overall, the wrestling in the state, I wouldn't say that it's gone down. I think we're improving. I think we can see that from, the exposure that we're getting. Maybe not pulling kids out from, the state of Pennsylvania type of a thing, but we have some kids in this state that can go up and they can compete against some of the bigger crowds or the bigger name kids. But overall, the state of South Dakota, I think we're improving. And things that are happening here at SDSU, it's only good. We can only go up from here. A couple weeks ago, Jackrabbits started off beating Iowa State here. And, again, as an alum, you were wrestling when the school was Division II. Did you ever think there was a time that was like, man, it'd be really cool to knock off, not only knock off a Big 12 team, South Dakota State's in the Big 12. Let's just look at it from your perspective, from an athlete here, not that long ago, to see where not just Division I in the Big 12 with Iowa State, with Oklahoma State, with Oklahoma, and with those guys in Fargo. Yeah, we did get exposed to some of that and got the opportunity to duel Iowa a couple times when I was in college. But to think of it as the full time, when the school decided to make that transition to Division I, a lot of people were a little nervous, including myself. But I was going to school up here in a part of the program, and we made that transition to D1. And the eyeballs, with the wrestlers that were here at D2, they kind of were wide-eyed. There's, oh, man, that transition from D2 to D1, we had a few kids transfer to Augie so they could still compete in the Division IIs. But the transition, I think it happened at the right time. And, Coach Bono coming in, and, again, the coaching staff that he's bringing, and that he has the guys and just the stuff that they're working. Like I said, the South Dakota kids, we can compete with a lot of other guys. Yeah, same thing. It's incredible to think about how far the program's come in 15 years since I've wrestled here, and I really appreciate it, and I'm sure all the alumni do. Paul Konechky, Top's brother Marty, in the duel prior to Iowa and South Dakota State Frost Arena. Guys, thanks for coming on the Short Time Wrestling Podcast, and good luck to your programs the rest of the year. Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks for all you do for the sport of wrestling, Jason. Yeah, thank you much. Coach Brands was talking to Terry before the match, and he said when you guys come into places like this and you get the big crowds and the opposing crowds, that you like it when the fans are on top of you and they're right in your face. How much of this environment do you guys kind of draw off of being a visiting team, knowing you've got a similar situation when you go home in Carver?
I think that's part of, how you're going to march as a Hawkeye. Everywhere you go, you're going to get the best shot. You're going to have the biggest crowds, and it's a situation that you love and you embrace. There's no better feeling than wrestling in front of your fans, except maybe when you can quiet a rabid arena that's on the road. And we have great fans, so that's saying a lot if you can compare those two things. As a competitor, as a competitive coach, we don't really have to worry too much about what our guys are thinking and how they're getting ready. These guys thrive on that environment as well. And you saw like Sorensen, he was in a fight. And things weren't going his way. The guy lifted him. It was a long call, holding. The guy took us down. And he's cool under fire, reversing the guy. And, he didn't get rattled by a rabid, rambunctious crowd. He just wrestled his match when he was in a fight to the end. So I don't worry about our guys too much. They do a good job.
Tom, despite the final score, did this feel like maybe the toughest matchup you've had to date this season?
Well, I mean, toughness, I guess that's relative. I mean, the score was, Tech fall after being put to my back. I don't think I gave up any back points, but the guy went out there, he had a game plan, keep his wrist clear, trying to give up more than 30 takedowns. They're all tough. They're all tough. It doesn't matter whether, it was our first match of the year, or this one, or the next one, or at the Nationals. They're all tough. The way I do it and the way I make it look, it makes it look easy, but they're all tough.
Sam, with this being such an individual sport and a dual meet, you're still looking upon your teammates for motivation and momentum. When you came up to the mat and put a resounding victory on there, did you feel that kind of raised the bench up a little bit? Be like, all right, they've been close the last 3 matches. This is our time to break up and show why we're a top 5 team in the country.
Yeah, I think that's part of the philosophy we have as Hawkeyes is if I go out there and put the hammer down and do my job, the next guy's going to go do the same, and we'll come away. There's no beating that. So yeah, that comes into mind, and I think even like Tom's saying, in a place like this, it might come even a little more when the crowd's still, they're still, oh well, we've been close, we're still kind of in it, and then you go out there and I didn't hear much cheering during my match from them, so that feels good. That does get us going a little bit, I think.
Coach, where do the Hawkeyes go technically after this? What do you take away from this duel and say, okay, we're going to go back to the drawing board and do this, or maybe we did this real well?
I think sometimes you get lulled to sleep when things are slow. And so that's one thing, getting from one level to the next, like Sorensen and Kemmer. Those guys were stiff-arming out front. They had a clear game plan, keep it close and try to beat them in the end. That's fine. But what you got to do is you got to open things up. So, working on angles and not letting it get slowed down to the point where you're comfortable with it being slow, because it's like, well, he's just trying to keep it close. He's trying to keep it close. Okay, what I got to do is I got to do some things to create angles, to get inside his hands, to get him moving and reacting so I can hit, my holds better with better setups and those types of things. The other thing is it's clear bottom position, affected us at 197. Cannot be a factor. Even if we're giving up riding time, that can't be a factor. I think it fatigued us a little bit. We did not have the pop at the end of that match that we needed to have to take that guy off his feet again. The other thing in that match is we need to have better setups with us being inside. So technically, 197. So a couple things there. And then, bottom position, there's a couple, times this season where that bottom position, Laux is, he's wrestling a guy that wants to be on top. That guy wants it easy. And, we need to fight harder. We need to give him something else to think about than just, he's going to tilt us and end that match there with back points. And that comes with continued work.
Seth, were you disappointed you didn't get a shot at Clark at 133?
Yeah, I've been preparing for him the last 2 weeks pretty hard, getting on film, working on stuff in the room to be ready for that match. So I was looking forward to it, but, it is what it is. You got to go out there and wrestle the same way no matter who your opponent is. So, I went out there, did my thing, and, I was disappointed I didn't get to get him yet. But, all that matters is March, so it's all right.
How did you sort of mentally adjust to getting a different opponent?
I got the same game plan going in no matter who I'm wrestling, Just knowing I'm wrestling a top guy, it's good to know what they're going to go after and stuff. But no matter what, I'm going to try to get to my offense, score a lot of points, and just put points on the board and turn guys on top. So
part of your journey down to 133s after the Junior Worlds, when it comes to the weight, this is something that maybe right now is probably easier to make, but towards the end of the season, have you given much thought about how much this pull is going to be for you and how you're going to manage your weight throughout the year?
Yeah, as long as I do the right things with my diet, I should be fine all year. Just eating the right things. Now we don't wrestle. We wrestle Sunday, and then after that we don't wrestle for 25 days. I got to be disciplined about my weight there, otherwise it could blow up a little bit. But as long as I stay disciplined about it, it shouldn't be a problem for me. So when
you came here, it was kind of a perfect storm. You get a fresh start, you get program on the rise, and you get A.J. Schott.
Yeah.
What has A.J. Schott done for you? You were always good on top in high school, and you've got that fun. What has A.J. brought to your game?
A lot. In high school, I was a lot. I'd do this kind of ride the same. I'd have that leg hooked, and all I would in high school would just go for cradles and stuff, and that would be about it. But now, working with him over the last year or so, it's just tilts, and going to those tilts over and over will open up my cradle, my near side, my far side cradle. So just focusing on tilting guys, getting their wrist, capturing it, all that stuff, and then riding hard, not letting guys go no matter what, and just focusing on that stuff. So he's helped me a ton on top, on my feet. We wrestle like on our feet too, so we do a lot of things similar, and it's been awesome having him.
Seth, what was the atmosphere, environment like for you guys?
It was good. Everybody, tons of fans. I think we broke a record by quite a bit tonight, so that was awesome. But, didn't come ready to wrestle today for the most part. We had a lot of close matches, swing matches that we should have been winning, and we did tonight. So, we got to be prepared next time a little more. So, I think there was three or four matches that we were right there in that we could have won. So, we need to flip that around, and hopefully fans will come back and keep supporting us. But we gotta move forward from here and keep looking on to our next duel. We got a couple Sunday, and then Midlands is a big one for us. So just get ready for that.
Nate, what did you think? Obviously there was a lot of hype going into this match. You knew there was going to be a big crowd and everything. Leaving the result aside for a second, what was it like for you guys to wrestle in front of 3 times as many people as ever been here before?
No, it's awesome, man. Being here 3 years ago, seeing us barely, scrap guys getting here, watch us wrestle Air Force and a bunch of, other small schools, bring a big one in here and just have everybody come out and support. It's pretty awesome. But like you said, that's just hanging the results. There's a lot more other things I'd like, I could talk about, but just from that atmosphere, great atmosphere. You guys heard how loud it gets. I love the support you get from South Dakota State. It's a great place.
And being a native of South Dakota and being at the only Division I wrestling program in the state, putting 4,000 people in the stands has got to do something for the high school community and the wrestling community in the state. What does tonight mean, regardless of the score on the scoreboard? What does tonight mean for South Dakota wrestling?
It's a big deal, man. Just hopefully that everybody else can, change their perception everybody around the country and the state that we belong. Score may not have shown, but we'll come out and fight anybody, man. Put a single on. I don't care what single it is. It's the only D1 school in the state. I love the state. Been here my whole life. Represent it the best I can, and we got guys out here fighting. And I think it should be a big deal, and everybody should support Jackrabbit Wrestling because we'll fight for anybody. So.
One last thing. When you were chasing him down pretty good there, and he went underneath your hands for a double leg there, and did that kind of creep into your mind as you were chasing him again in the third, trying to get some bonus points out of it? You know what I mean? You kind of raise your hands a little bit and he went underneath you. Yeah. Kind of creep in your head a little bit in the third?
A little bit, man. You never want to get the ref involved, but, early match, I like to get some stalling calls where, I'm pushing the guy's face around the whole mat and, he's not attacking on me, but, that's what happens when you have someone come in and you're a favorite guy. That's what I tell my wrestlers to do too. But, like you said, I looked over Coach Bono and he gives me the hands, at that point, do we need the bonus points? No, I wanted to put it on him, but, you got 10 more seconds. I think I pinned him in a body lock, but instead I just go for the 2 and get the takedown, so. But, no, he's a good guy and he's young, but we're a good team, so. Yeah.
There's pictures of you guys all over town. This kind of goes back to the crowd, but did that make you nervous at all, knowing that, you've got an inexperienced opponent, you're ranked pretty high in the country, but there's going to be a lot more people here that have never seen you wrestle, that have seen you in a cutout, whether it be at a Hy-Vee or at a gas station somewhere. Did that creep into your mind at all going into this match? Were you any more nervous than you would normally be?
No, I've been to the national tournament a couple times, nothing like that place. That's, 16,000 strangers that don't know me. But, dude, there's nothing like home. I'd rather have 4,000 people that don't know me wearing blue yelling at me than black and yellow up in Carver Hawkeye. That's some strangers that aren't too friendly to me, so I'd rather have these people that have this perception, try and go prove them right and win some big matches for them,
Well, we accomplished what we did with crowd-wise, so, thank you to everybody that came out. We told the guys before the match there's going to be a time in that match where you're either going to get tough and win the position, and it's going to put you in a great position to win the match, or you're going to put your head down and let them win the position. I think we did that at about 3 or 4 weights. That was a difference in the matches. And, we didn't win any of them. So it's a learning lesson for these guys, but, it's a disappointing loss with the crowd that we had.
What else can you take away from this moving forward throughout the season? I mean, it didn't go the way we wanted to, obviously. But, you're obviously building.
Yeah, it's hard. You know what? It's hard for a guy like me to accept this, but we are building. We're not a top 5 team, and I think you saw that tonight. Those guys are a top 3 team. We're ranked right where we probably should be. We're probably a top 20 team. In the beginning of December, we just got to make sure that we make a jump and a climb and get these guys better. That when March comes around, we're a top 10 team. That's the goal.
What has to happen?
Well, we got to get tougher in those situations. Tougher, and we have to understand the positions that are going to be match winners or losers. There's times in the match against a good guy that when you're in a scramble and the score's 3-2, that if you win that position, it breaks the spirit of the other guy. And it happened against us tonight. So we've got to make sure that we understand the fight. We talk about the fight. We got to understand when you escape, you take the fight to them. We got guys that we haven't felt that. We haven't felt that kind of team. So it is good. It is good, and that's why I love wrestling those guys. That's what you're going to feel to be an All-American or national champ, and that's what we've got to get to.
Chris, Seth Gross, probably disappointing. He didn't get to have the match that he was expecting, but you also had to like the way he responded to the bad news, I guess.
Yeah, he's the kid's a national contender. I don't care what media people say. He hasn't wrestled a ranked guy. This kid is a competitor, and he wants to win an NCAA championship real bad. You put being a competitor, and you put a will, and you put a little chip on your shoulder. This kid's got what it takes. So I'm excited. That's what you do to backups. That's what we talk about. If you're going to wrestle a backup, you treat a backup like a backup. And it doesn't matter who they put in front of us or for whatever reason that they do that. I know Tom Brands real well. That kid's hurt. They're going to bring him if he's healthy. So it is what it is. There's no ill will towards Seth that everybody's been asking me about, and there's no seeding. He's not hiding from seeding people. The kid's probably hurt. And he did the right thing by leaving him home and getting him healthy for March. So it is what it is. We're disappointed. Hopefully we get a shot at him at Midlands.
Chris, 4,087. What's that mean to you?
Man, we got the best fans in the country. We're a 20th ranked program. We're not number 1. We're not number 2. We're not winning 9 out of 10 matches and killing everybody. We're a 20th ranked team with a rabid fan base that wants to see us succeed. And I'm thankful and I'm appreciative. And it doesn't happen alone. Our ticket office worked their tails off. Our marketing people worked their tails off. Our fans worked their tails off on social media, getting this word out. Again, I can't thank the fans enough. I can't thank our administration enough for allowing us to do the things we do to promote it. It's something that I'm very I don't know the word I'm trying to use, but I'm very motivated to build this fan base because when we go out and wrestle well, it is a huge advantage. We didn't get the crowd involved tonight, but man, 4,087. There's not going to be many schools that can put that many people in an arena.
Does that mean you'll have kind of bittersweet memories of this night, being that the record you said attendance-wise, but lost it?
Well, we lost.
Right.
You're never happy when you lose, but a guy like me, it's hard to look at the positives. But I'll tell you, I'm happy with the crowd. I'm happy that all the hard work that everybody in our department that supports me, supports our program, I'm happy for them. And I'm happy that we showed our administration and we showed the university and we showed the city of Brookings, this is a wrestling school. There's no doubt about it. We're going to have recruits watch that tonight. Recruits watch that match tonight and they see what they can wrestle in front of. We're not going to lose the recruiting battle anymore when they say, you're going to wrestle in front of a rabid fan base at a different place, and you're going to go to South Dakota State and wrestle in front of 200 people. That's not going to happen anymore. So that's a huge recruiting tool for us.
When you look at that crowd, you look at the state of South Dakota. You guys wrestle the other teams within the state on Sunday, but when we asked Nate Roeder the same question. What's this mean for South Dakota wrestling? Not just South Dakota State, but the entire state, from the youth, the grassroots, all the way up to the high school kids, through all the college programs here. I
think it's huge. We're trying to build wrestling. You look at our lineup, what do we have, 4 or 5 South Dakota kids in it? These kids in South Dakota need to dream about being national champs for South Dakota State. Nothing else. And do they want to wrestle in front of a crowd like that? It's huge. We're trying to grow wrestling here. We run our youth club. Our coaches on our staff run the Brookings Youth Club. That's how, we take a night a week and we go over there and help those guys out because we want to see the little community of Brookings, the state of South Dakota, be dominant in wrestling. Because we all know, we all know wrestling is it's a sport. It's the sport. It's the oldest sport, and it teaches you the most about life. And you can do a lot of successful things when you after you've been wrestling. Guys, thank you. Thanks for covering this.
This show is part of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MattTalkOnline.com.